Commander Jolt Pax sighed heavily as he reviewed the incoming cadet files on his holo display. The electric blue tendrils that served as his hair twitched with irritation. In his 27 cycles as combat instructor at the Galactic Combat Academy on Vrax 9, he'd seen every species the United Stellar Commonwealth had to offer. From the four-armed Quillians to the gelatinous Flupians, he prided himself on being able to train them all. But this was different. A human? He grumbled, his three eyes blinking in sequence. They've assigned me a human? Lieutenant Vos Tenor, his assistant instructor, nervously adjusted her exoskeleton. The admission council says it's time we diversified our program, sir. Diversified? With a Deathworlder? Pax slammed his fist on the desk, causing the holo display to flicker. Do they want to get our regular cadets killed, or worse, traumatized? Voss's chelicerae clicked anxiously. Well, sir, the human did score quite impressively on the entrance exams. Of course he did. Pax snorted. They come from a planet with crushing gravity, lethal atmospheric composition, and temperature swings that would kill most sentient species. They call it weather and go outside to enjoy it. Their idea of relaxing involves voluntarily submerging in dihydrogen monoxide, a substance that dissolves most council species. The commander pulled up the human's file. Marcus Vega, designation the Madman, apparently a self-selected nickname. Pax rolled all three of his eyes simultaneously. Look at this physical profile, he muttered. Bone density that would make a Chronaxian jealous. Muscle mass adapted for 9.8 ms2 gravity. And apparently their skin naturally prevents most of their internal fluids from leaking out. They're practically armored from birth. Maybe he'll raise the bar for the other cadets, Os offered tentatively. Or break it. Literally, Pax retorted. Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld for good reasons. You know their planet has these things called microbes that are constantly trying to eat them from the inside. And they just live with it? Their bodies fight microscopic wars every day. The Academy's central bell chimed, signaling the arrival of the transport shuttle. Commander Pax reluctantly rose from his desk, his exoskeletal uniform automatically adjusting to his posture. Well, let's go meet this Marcus the Madman Vega. And pray to the seven suns that he doesn't accidentally crush anyone's appendages in what humans call a friendly handshake. As they walked through the Academy's arched hallways, other instructors whispered among themselves. Word had spread fast. A human was coming. The first ever admitted to the Academy. I heard they eat other life forms for sustenance, whispered Instructor Zeal to Trainer Posca. Not just plants, but actual animals. They put the flesh in their mouths and dissolve it with acids. I heard they sleep, replied Posca with a shudder. They become unconscious, voluntarily, for hours. Every day. Commander Pax ignored the gossip as they reached the landing pad. The sleek transport shuttle hovered down, its gravitational repulsors humming softly. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. And there he stood. Not the hulking monster Pax had imagined, but a relatively normal-looking bipedal being. About 1.8 meters tall, with what humans called dark skin and a mouth stretched wide in what Pax recognized from the briefing materials as a smile. A supposedly non-threatening baring of teeth that Pax still found deeply unsettling. "Heya, folks," Marcus Vega called out, his voice booming across the landing pad with surprising volume. Man, this place looks exactly like the brochure. Sweet digs. He bounded down the ramp carrying what appeared to be an absurdly small bag for someone planning a full academic cycle stay. Commander Pax stiffened his posture. "Welcome to the Galactic Combat Academy, Human Vega. I am Commander Jolt Pax, your primary combat instructor." Marcus grinned even wider. How was that physically possible? And thrust his hand forward. "Awesome to meet you, Commander. Call me Marcus, or Madman. Either works." Pax stared at the extended appendage with trepidation, remembering his protective gloves. This was going to be a very, very long training cycle. Today's first evaluation will be simple, Commander Pax announced to the assembled cadets who stood in neat rows before the ominous black doorway. The gravity chamber will test your physical resilience and adaptability, essential qualities for any combat specialist in the Commonwealth fleet. A nervous murmur rippled through the 23 non-human cadets. Behind them, Marcus Vega bounced on his heels, looking more like he was waiting in line for a theme park ride than a potentially lethal test. "Is there a gift shop after we get out?" Marcus called out, earning confused stares from the other cadets and a glare from Pax. The commander continued, ignoring the comment. "The chamber begins at your species' native gravity and progressively increases. Your goal is to reach the red button on the far wall and press it. The test ends when you either complete this task or activate your emergency beacon. Are there any questions?" A slender, azure-skinned cadet raised a delicate hand. "Commander, what is the maximum gravity setting?" 3 times standard galactic measurement, Cadet Lumi, Pax replied. Which equates to approximately, he paused, checking his data pad, 3 times Earth gravity for our special guest. Marcus whistled. "Only 3 times? That's like carrying my buddy Rick after a night out in Vegas." "No biggie." Instructor Drell Novak stepped forward, his horn ridges flushing a deep crimson. Unlike Pax, he made no effort to hide his disdain for the human. "Perhaps our Deathworlder would like to demonstrate first," Novak suggested, mandibles clicking in what passed for a smile in his species. "Show us what Earth-born resilience looks like." Commander Pax shot Novak a warning glance. "The chamber is calibrated for progressive testing, instructor, starting with a Deathworlder would." "Nah, it's cool," Marcus interrupted, stepping forward with a casual salute. "Happy to go first. Warm the place up for everyone." Pax's tendrils twitched with concern. "Human Vega, while your enthusiasm is noted, I must warn you that even for a Deathworlder, the strain of—" "Commander," Marcus said with a wink, "I once carried my drunk roommate up 6 flights of stairs during a power outage while also carrying our pizza. This will be cake." "You ate a bakery item while carrying an inebriated companion?" asked Cadet Glorn, a stocky amphibious being whose translator clearly struggled with human idioms. "It's just an expression. Frog dude," Marcus laughed, slapping Glorn on what he assumed was a shoulder. The amphibian cadet nearly toppled over from the casual contact. Commander Pax sighed. "Very well. Cadet Vega will demonstrate first. Remember the emergency beacon on your wrist. 3 pulses and we extract you immediately." The black door slid open, revealing a simple, featureless room with a red button on the far wall, approximately 30 meters away. Marcus strolled in as the door sealed behind him. The gathered cadets and instructors watched through the observation window as the control panel displayed the gravity increase, 1G1.5 G2G. Inside the chamber, Marcus's stride didn't change. If anything, he seemed to be deliberately taking his time, looking around as if touring a museum. "He's faking," Instructor Novak whispered to Pax. "No species can maintain normal locomotion at twice their native gravity. It's biomechanically impossible." At 2.5 G, Marcus yawned dramatically, making sure the observation window caught his exaggerated gesture. He began doing exaggerated lunges forward, as if warming up for a casual jog. The stocky cadet named Tazik, whose own species evolved on a 1.4 G world, pressed closer to the window. Is he mocking the chamber?" "Impossible," Novak sputtered, his horn ridges now pulsing bright orange with agitation. "The simulation must be malfunctioning." The display hit 3G, the maximum setting, as Marcus reached the midpoint of the chamber. The other cadets who had trained for cycles would be crawling at this point, if they remained conscious at all. Marcus stopped, turned toward the window, and began doing jumping jacks. 1, 2, 3. He counted loudly enough for his voice to carry through the reinforced viewing glass. Come on, everyone. Don't make me exercise alone. Commander Pax couldn't help the trill of amazement that escaped his throat, a sound his species made only in moments of profound revelation, followed by the void dancers. The readings must be wrong, Novax insisted, frantically checking the control panel. This is some kind of trick. Inside the chamber, Marcus finally seemed to grow bored with his demonstration. He casually walked the remaining distance, pressed the red button with an exaggerated flourish, and then bowed to the observation window. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereupon, he called out, is how we do it on Earth. Who's next? When the chamber door reopened, Marcus sauntered out, not even breathing heavily. The cadets backed away, creating a small circle around him, as if he might suddenly demonstrate some other terrifying Deathworlder ability. Cadet Lumi, the azure-skinned being, stared with all 4 of her eyes. Were you really not affected? Marcus shrugged. I mean, it felt like I was wearing a backpack. A heavy one, sure, but nothing crazy. A backpack? Glorn echoed, translator struggling again. Yeah, you know, something you carry stuff in? On your back. While hiking. Marcus looked around at the blank stares. You guys do have hiking here, right? Please tell me you have hiking. Commander Pax stepped forward, his professional demeanor slightly cracked. Inked Vega, while your performance was impressive, I would appreciate less showboating in future evaluations. Showboating? Marcus grinned. Commander, I was going easy in there. On Earth, we have this thing called CrossFit that would make your gravity chamber look like a relaxation spa. Instructor Novax pushed through the group. It must have been a malfunction. The chamber needs recalibration. He turned to Pax. I insist he repeat the test tomorrow after proper diagnostics. The readings were accurate, Instructor, Pax replied firmly. Perhaps it's our understanding that requires recalibration. As the next cadet nervously entered the chamber, Marcus leaned against the wall, casually tossing his emergency beacon in the air and catching it. Commander Pax found himself watching the human with a mixture of concern and growing fascination. This wasn't just physical resilience. There was something about the human's attitude, a comfort with hardship that went beyond mere adaptation. It was, Pax realized with a start, almost as if the human found the challenge entertaining. The Omega simulation is the pride of the Galactic Combat Academy, Commander Pax announced, his voice echoing through the cavernous training arena. For 3 centuries, it has broken the spirit of overconfident cadets and forged the greatest warriors in the Commonwealth. The arena itself was imposing a massive hexagonal chamber with walls that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid metal. Above, a complex array of holographic projectors and gravity manipulators hummed with barely contained power. Many of you will fail, Pax continued, pacing before the assembled cadets. Some of you will excel. All of you will learn your limitations. His third eye swiveled toward Marcus, who was currently attempting to balance a combat helmet on his finger. Cadet Vega. Perhaps you'd like to share what amuses you with the class. Marcus caught the spinning helmet with a casual flick of his wrist. Just wondering if this comes in my size, Commander. Human heads are kinda big. Full of dreams and movie quotes, you know? Several cadets snickered, quickly silenced by Pax's glare. Since you're so eager to demonstrate your unique approach to combat readiness, perhaps you'd like to observe your classmates first. Front row seat to the show? Don't mind if I do, Commander. Marcus bowed with exaggerated formality and took a seat on a nearby bench. Instructor Novak stepped forward, activating a control panel on his wrist. Cadet Tazik, you're first. Level 3 combat simulation. The stocky, orange-scaled cadet stepped into the arena. The walls shimmered, and suddenly the hexagonal chamber transformed into a rocky battlefield. 3 holographic opponents' humanoid figures glowing with threatening red energy materialized from thin air. "Oh, cool," Marcus whispered to Cadet Lumi beside him. "It's like Star Trek's holodeck had a baby with Mortal Kombat." Lumi's 4 eyes blinked in confusion, but she kept her attention on Tazik, who had dropped into a combat stance. The simulation began, and Tazik moved with surprising grace for his bulky frame. His natural armor deflected several energy blasts as he executed a series of practiced combat maneuvers. His tail whipped one opponent while his clawed hands dispatched another. Within 4 minutes, he had neutralized all 3 adversaries. The cadets applauded politely as Tazik exited the arena, chest heaving with exertion. "Excellent form, Cadet," Pax nodded approvingly. 8-7 points. One by one, the other cadets took their turns. Lumi displayed remarkable agility, seeming to predict her opponent's movements seconds before they occurred. Glorn utilized his amphibious abilities, secreting a disorienting mist that confused the holographic enemies. After each performance, Marcus offered enthusiastic high fives that most cadets were too confused or intimidated to return. "Dude, you were like a ninja frog in there," he exclaimed to Glorn, who blinked his massive eyes in bewilderment. Finally, Instructor Novax turned to Marcus with poorly concealed disdain. "Perhaps our Earth cadet would care to demonstrate his capabilities now?" "Thought you'd never ask." Marcus bounced to his feet. "What level we talking? 3? 4? Novax's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smirk. "Oh, I think we can accommodate a Deathworlder. Level 7 should be appropriate." A gasp rippled through the cadets. Commander Pax stepped forward, alarm evident in his posture. "Instructor, level 7 is reserved for final cycle evaluation. It's not suitable for..." "I'm good with 7, Marcus interrupted cheerfully. "Though if you've got anything higher, I wouldn't mind. It's been a slow week." Novax's eyes narrowed. "Level 7 it is." Marcus strolled into the arena, rolling his shoulders. He wore the standard cadet uniform, having declined the offered protective gear with a casual "nah, cramps my style." The walls shimmered, transforming into a harshly lit urban environment with crumbling buildings and narrow alleyways. 7 holographic opponents materialized, more detailed and threatening than those faced by the other cadets. "So do I wait for a bell or something?" Marcus called out, hands in his pockets. The first attacker lunged without warning, a massive brute with energy blades extending from both arms. Marcus seemed completely unprepared, his posture relaxed, almost bored. At the last possible second, he sidestepped with a dancer's grace, allowing the attacker to stumble past him. "Oh, buddy. Hasn't anyone told you about personal space?" Marcus laughed, ducking a second swing. "I mean, we just met." From the observation area, the cadets watched in astonishment as Marcus continued to evade rather than engage, all while keeping up a steady stream of commentary. Is he even trying?" Lumi whispered, her luminescent skin pulsing with confusion. Commander Pax leaned forward, his 3 eyes narrowed in concentration. "He's analyzing, learning their patterns." After nearly a minute of what appeared to be random dodging, Marcus finally struck. His movements shifted from casual evasion to something else entirely, a fluid combination of what humans called martial arts. Though unlike any style Pax had seen in the Commonwealth archives. Marcus ducked under a blade swing, stepped inside his attacker's guard, and delivered a rapid sequence of strikes to joints and pressure points. The holographic brute crumpled, its programming registering critical damage. "Sorry, big guy. I'd buy you a drink to make up for it, but you're kinda see-through," Marcus quipped, already moving toward his next opponents. What followed was a display that left even Novax speechless. Marcus weaved between his remaining adversaries, his combat style a bewildering mix of disciplined technique and chaotic improvisation. He used the environment, at one point running up a wall to flip over two attackers, causing them to collide. Most disturbing to the observing aliens was his constant commentary and laughter. "Watch out for that left hook. Oh, too slow. Here, let me show you how it's done," Marcus called out, delivering a devastating counterattack. This reminds me of this bar in Tijuana where I accidentally spilled a drink on a guy with face tattoos. Good times. When the final holographic opponent charged, Marcus actually yawned before executing a perfect sweep kick followed by a disabling strike to what would have been a nerve cluster on most bipedal species. The simulation dissolved, returning the arena to its neutral state. Marcus stood in the center, not even breathing hard. "So do I get points for style? Because I feel like that deserves bonus points for style." He grinned at the stunned silence. The scoreboard flashed, 98 points, the highest in the current training cycle. Commander Pax found his voice first. Cadet Vega, that was. Beginner's luck. Novax interjected. "The human simply has natural advantages in terms of bone density and muscle mass." Marcus shrugged as he rejoined the group. "I mean, maybe, or possibly it's because that simulation is basically a dance party compared to growing up in Chicago. You guys ever tried to catch the last train home on a Friday night? Now that's combat training." Pax studied the human with newfound intensity. It wasn't just the physical performance that disturbed him. It was the laughter, the jokes, the utter lack of fear or even appropriate caution. For the first time in his long career, Commander Jolt Pax wondered if perhaps the Commonwealth had fundamentally misunderstood what made humans dangerous. It wasn't their resilience to harsh conditions, though that was impressive enough. It was the fact that they seemed to enjoy challenges that would traumatize most species. In the Academy's central dining hall, Cadet Vrax Sunborn sat alone, his iridescent scales shifting between deep crimson and midnight blue as he stabbed at his nutrient cube. As heir to the Sunborn Collective and graduate of the elite Pixis Military Academy, Vrax had arrived at the Galactic Combat Academy with expectations of easy dominance. For 3 cycles, those expectations had been met. Or until the human arrived. "Mind if I join you? All the other tables are full of people who look at me like I might eat them." Marcus plopped his tray down across from Vrax without waiting for an answer. "Which is ridiculous. I already had lunch." Vrax's head crest extended fully a warning display that would have sent most species retreating. "You mock our traditions, Deathworlder." "Nah, just making conversation." Marcus bit into something that resembled a purple apple. "So you're the famous Vrax Sunborn, huh? Nice to officially meet the competition." "We are not competitors," Vrax hissed, 4-fingered hand clenching around his utensil. "You are an anomaly. A curiosity the Council admitted for political reasons. Nothing more." Marcus chewed thoughtfully. "Huh. Is that why you've been giving me the death stare during tactical training? Because I'm just a curiosity?" Vrax leaned forward, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "My species evolved as apex predators on a world where light itself can kill. We mastered interstellar travel while your kind was still discovering fire. I have trained with the greatest warriors in 12 star systems." "Cool resume," Marcus nodded. "Do you want to arm wrestle or something? Get this rivalry going properly?" The alien's scales rippled with barely contained rage. "You think this is a game? Perhaps we should settle this matter directly, without the instructor's constraints, without their safety protocols." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Are you challenging me to a duel? Because that's giving me serious Victorian England vibes, and I am here for it." Tomorrow. The auxiliary combat arena, 0 hours. Vrax rose, his full height impressive even by human standards. No simulation, no rules, just you and me, Deathworlder. "Sounds like a date," Marcus winked. "Should I bring snacks?" Vrax stalked away, his tail lashing with agitation. As he left, several instructor heads turned to follow his movement, then swiveled back to Marcus with expressions ranging from curiosity to concern. "You really shouldn't antagonize him." The voice came from behind Marcus. He turned to find another human, the first he'd seen since arriving at the academy. She wore the uniform of a junior instructor, with the rank insignia of a Commonwealth captain. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight regulation bun, and her expression was serious enough to make Marcus sit up straighter automatically. "Captain Alara Bright," she introduced herself, taking Vrax's vacant seat, Commonwealth Special Tactics Division, and currently the only other human within 17 light years. Marcus grinned. Another Earthling. God, it's good to see a face without tentacles or scales. No offense to tentacles and scales, they're great, just not what I grew up with. "This isn't a joke, Cadet Vega." Captain Bright leaned forward. "Vrax Sunborn comes from the warrior caste of the Sunborn Collective. His species has natural advantages you haven't seen yet. They can modulate their bioelectric field to disrupt nervous systems on contact. So no hugging." "Got it." "I'm serious, Marcus. He's been holding back during regular training. We all have to, under academy protocols. But a private duel? He'll use everything at his disposal." Marcus shrugged. "Sounds like a learning opportunity to me." Captain Bright sighed. "I've been stationed here for 3 years as a combat advisor and xenobiological liaison. The instructors think they understand humans based on physical metrics and planetary classifications, but they don't get us. Not really." "And you're warning me because?" "Because I don't want to see the first human cadet get electrocuted by an angry Sunborn princeling." She stood up. "Just be careful. He's not just fighting you. He's fighting for his status, his family honor, and his species' reputation." Across the dining hall, Commander Pax observed the interaction between the two humans with interest. His assistant, Lieutenant Voss, followed his gaze. "Captain Bright seems concerned about something," Voss noted. "She should be," Pax replied quietly. "The instructor's lounge is buzzing with news of tomorrow night's unauthorized exercise. You're not going to stop it?" Pax's tendrils twitched thoughtfully. "Would you attempt to prevent a supernova, Lieutenant? Some forces of nature simply must run their course." "The betting pool is up to 1,200 credits," Voss added, heavily favoring Cadet Sunborn. "And you, Lieutenant? Where would you place your wager?" Voss hesitated. The logical choice would be Vrax. He's trained his entire life for combat. His species evolved specialized offensive capabilities. His record is impeccable. "But," Pax prompted. "But I keep thinking about the gravity chamber and the combat simulator. The human shouldn't have been able to do what he did." Commander Pax nodded slowly. "I had a conversation with Captain Bright when she first arrived at the academy. A most enlightening discussion about Earth and its history. Did you know humans fought wars against themselves? Not just isolated conflicts, but global engagements involving billions. Most species have violent periods in their evolution," Voss noted. "Yes, but humans seem to have turned violence into an art form, then a science, then a form of entertainment." Pax's third eye blinked thoughtfully. "Captain Bright explained a human concept to me. They call it playing possum, appearing harmless until the moment to strike." Later that evening, as the Academy's 3 moons rose over the training grounds, Commander Pax found himself walking alongside Captain Bright during her evening patrol. "You spoke with Cadet Vega," he stated rather than asked. "I did my duty to warn a fellow human about a potentially hazardous situation," she replied formally. "And yet you didn't officially report the planned duel." Captain Bright's stride didn't falter. "With all due respect, Commander, neither did you." A moment of silence passed between them before Pax spoke again. I've reviewed your service record, Captain. Distinguished combat deployments on Nexus Prime and during the Torrid incursion. Your insights into human combat psychology have been valuable to the Academy. But I sense there's much you haven't shared about humans, about how they approach conflict. Captain Bright stopped walking, turning to face the alien commander. Humans are a study in contradictions, Commander. We love peace but excel at war. We fear death but court danger. We value rules but celebrate those who break them creatively. And Cadet Vega. Is he typical of your species? For the first time, Captain Bright smiled. There's no such thing as a typical human, Commander. That's what makes us so dangerous. The auxiliary combat arena lay shrouded in shadow, illuminated only by the eerie blue glow of emergency lighting. Academy regulations prohibited unsupervised use of training facilities after curfew, a rule currently being broken by 2 cadets, several instructors, and one very conflicted human captain. 10 credits says the human doesn't last 5 minutes, whispered Instructor Novax to Trainer Posca. 20 says he doesn't even show up, Posca replied. Commander Pax, standing in the shadows of the observation gallery, said nothing. Beside him, Captain Bright maintained an equally professional silence, though her clenched jaw betrayed her concern. At precisely 0000 hours, the arena's side door hissed open. Vrax Sunborn entered, his scales now a deep obsidian black with pulsing crimson highlights that traced the contours of his powerful musculature. He had shed the standard Academy uniform in favor of traditional Sunborn combat attire, a minimalist harness that left his arms and torso largely uncovered. Most impressive, murmured Lieutenant Voss. A full bioelectric display mode. I haven't seen that outside of historical recordings. Vrax took position at the center of the arena, his posture formal and ritualistic. 2 minutes passed. Then 5. Perhaps Posca wins the bet after all, Novax chuckled. The opposite door suddenly banged open with unnecessary force as Marcus Vega practically bounced into the arena. He wore standard-issue physical training attire and carried what appeared to be a half-eaten snack in one hand. Sorry I'm late, he called out cheerfully. I got hungry on the way. Anyone else want some of this blue thing? It's like a cross between a banana and bubblegum. Weird but not bad. Vrax's head crest flared with indignation. You dare approach sacred combat with food? Sacred combat? Marcus raised an eyebrow, finishing his snack. I thought this was just a friendly sparring session. But hey, if you want to get all mystical about it, I'm game. Vrax circled slowly, his movements precise and predatory. There are no instructors to protect you now, Deathworlder. No safety protocols. No rules. Cool, Marcus nodded, loosening his shoulders with casual stretches. So basically, just like my old neighborhood on a Saturday night. Without warning, Vrax attacked. His speed was shocking, far greater than he had ever displayed in sanctioned training. His clawed hand slashed through the air, where Marcus's head had been a split second earlier. Ho-oh. Starting without a bell. That's cheating in the boxing world, my dude, Marcus laughed, dancing backward. Vrax pressed his advantage, each strike coming closer than the last. His scales began to pulse with increasing intensity, blue-white energy crackling between his fingertips. Bioelectric offensive capability, Captain Bright whispered to Commander Pax. One touch could incapacitate a normal human. Pax's third eye swiveled toward her. And Cadet Vega is either oblivious to the danger or she trailed off as Marcus narrowly avoided another lightning-fast strike. The observers watched in tense silence as the duel continued. Vrax was clearly the aggressor, his movements becoming increasingly elaborate and powerful. Marcus, meanwhile, seemed content merely to avoid being hit, offering no counterattacks. Why doesn't the human fight back? Instructor Novax wondered aloud. Is he a coward after all? After nearly 10 minutes of this one-sided exchange, Vrax finally connected a glancing blow across Marcus's shoulder that discharged a visible spark of bioelectricity. Marcus staggered back, his right arm momentarily limp. "First blood to the Sunborn," murmured Voss. Vrax paused, head crest fully extended in a victory display. "Do you yield, human?" Marcus looked down at his temporarily paralyzed arm, then back up at Vrax. His face contorted not in pain, but in what appeared to be barely contained amusement. Then, to everyone's bewilderment, he burst into uncontrollable laughter. "Oh man," he gasped between guffaws, "that tingles. It's like when you lick a battery." Vrax's crest flattened in confusion. You've ingested power cells?" "It's a childhood rite of passage," Marcus explained, still chuckling as feeling gradually returned to his arm. "Along with sticking forks in outlets and jumping off garage roofs into swimming pools." "You mock my sacred combat technique?" Vrax's scales flashed dangerously. "Not mocking, buddy. It's just," Marcus wiped tears of laughter from his eyes. "This whole thing you stalking around, the light show, the dramatic posing, it reminds me of playground scuffles back home. You know, when you're 8 years old and trying to look tough in front of your friends." In the observation gallery, Captain Bright closed her eyes briefly. "Oh no. Oh no." "What is happening?" Pax asked her quietly. "He stopped playing possum," she replied. Below in the arena, Vrax roared with rage and launched himself at Marcus, bioelectric energy now fully charged and crackling like lightning around his entire body. This time, however, Marcus didn't dodge. Instead, he stepped forward. What followed happened so quickly that several observers would later disagree on the exact sequence of events. Marcus slipped inside Vrax's guard, somehow avoiding the bioelectric field. His previously casual demeanor vanished, replaced by a focused intensity that transformed his entire being. He delivered a devastating combination of strikes not to Vrax's torso or head, but to specific points on his arms, legs, and neck. Vrax stumbled, his bioelectric field flickering erratically. He tried to counterattack, but his legendary speed had vanished. Another precise strike from Marcus, and the alien's left leg buckled. A follow-up hit to a nerve cluster near his shoulder, and his right arm went limp. "Pressure points," Captain Bright explained softly to the stunned Commander Pax. He studied Vrax's physiology. "When?" Pax asked, astonished. "Probably during all those combat classes where you thought he wasn't paying attention." In less than 30 seconds, the tables had completely turned. Vrax lay on his back, Marcus standing over him with one foot lightly pressing on the alien's throat. The bioelectric display had completely died out. "That," Marcus said quietly, all humor gone from his voice, "is what real Earth combat looks like. No flashy displays, no dramatic postures, just efficient, ruthless precision." Then, to everyone's surprise, he extended a hand to the fallen Sunborn. "Good fight, though. You're seriously impressive when you're not holding back." For a long moment, Vrax stared at the offered hand. Then, with a formal nod that seemed to cost him considerable pride, he accepted it. "You could have defeated me at any time," Vrax stated as Marcus helped him to his feet. "Nah, I needed to learn how your bioelectric thing worked first. Nearly fried me a couple times there." "But why the laughter? Why mock sacred combat?" Marcus's expression softened. "I wasn't mocking you, Vrax. Laughter it's how humans deal with stress, with pain, with the unexpected. It's a defense mechanism more powerful than any bioelectric field." In the gallery, the stunned silence was finally broken by Instructor Novax. "Impossible," he muttered. "The Sunborn warrior technique is undefeatable." "Apparently not," Commander Pax replied quietly. Then, turning to Captain Bright, "You knew." She shrugged slightly. "I suspected. Humans don't display their true capabilities until necessary. It's deeply ingrained in our psychology. We play fight, we hold back, we joke until we don't. Below them, something remarkable was happening. Vrax Sunborn, heir to the collective and pride of his species, was engaged in earnest conversation with Marcus Vega, the two warriors now speaking as equals. They're exchanging combat techniques, Voss observed with surprise. Captain Bright smiled. Another human trait. We're just as interested in learning from our opponents as we are in defeating them. Commander Pax watched the scene with all three of his eyes, his worldview shifting like tectonic plates. I believe, he said finally, that I have significantly underestimated your species, Captain. Everyone does, Commander, she replied. Until they laugh with us or find themselves wondering why we're laughing at all. Word of the Midnight Duel spread through the Academy like a plasma fire, impossible to contain despite the official silence from both participants. By the time the final examination cycle arrived, even the Academy overseer, a distinguished Quarian diplomat who rarely involved herself in cadet affairs, had requested a seat in the observation gallery. The impossible scenario, Lieutenant Voss explained to the gathered dignitaries, was designed by the Commonwealth's most advanced tactical AIs. It presents a combat challenge that escalates beyond reasonable parameters, testing not merely skill, but psychological resilience in the face of certain failure. Certain failure? Asked the overseer, her crystalline appendages shimmering with curiosity. In 3 centuries, no cadet has ever completed the scenario, Commander Pax confirmed. The closest was Archmarshal Zento of the Tiberian Guard, who reached the 7th wave before succumbing. Most cadets are eliminated during the 3rd or 4th. And you believe the human will perform exceptionally? The overseer's tone suggested polite skepticism. Before Pax could respond, the doors to the simulation chamber opened. Marcus entered alongside the other final-year cadets, now including Vrax Sunborn. In the weeks since their duel, the two had developed an unlikely camaraderie, often seen sparring together during free training periods. Candidates, Commander Pax addressed them formally. Today you face the Academy's ultimate challenge. The impossible scenario is designed to test your limits, to push you beyond reasonable expectations. There is no shame in failure. Indeed, it is expected. That's not very motivational, Commander Marcus called out with a grin. What happened to believe in yourself and reach for the stars? Scattered laughter rippled through the cadet ranks, quickly silenced by Instructor Novak's glare. Volunteers for first attempt? Pax asked, ignoring the comment. Marcus's hand shot up immediately. Let's do this. I didn't have coffee this morning, so I need something to wake me up. As Marcus entered the simulation chamber alone, the other cadets pressed close to the observation windows. The impossible scenario was famous, or rather, infamous throughout the Academy. Even watching someone attempt it was considered a valuable learning experience. Inside the chamber, Marcus bounced on his toes, shaking out his limbs like a prizefighter. When the simulation activated, the chamber transformed into what appeared to be the bridge of a Commonwealth battlecruiser. Holographic crew members manned various stations, all looking expectantly at Marcus. Scenario parameters, announced the AI's disembodied voice. You are Commander Vega of the CSS as Indomitable. Your vessel has been ambushed by separatist forces. Life support is failing. Engineering reports critical reactor damage. The nearest friendly forces are 3 hours away at maximum FTL. Enemy boarding parties have breached decks 3 through 7. Your objective, survive. Cool, Marcus nodded. So basically, Tuesday. The simulation began without further warning. Alarms blared as the virtual ship shuddered under enemy fire. Holographic crew members shouted reports of cascading systems failures. The tactical display showed enemy vessels closing from multiple vectors. But from the observation gallery, Captain Bright leaned forward intently. Interesting approach, she murmured as Marcus began issuing rapid-fire commands to his virtual crew. "What approach?" asked Voss. "He hasn't done anything yet." "He's not following standard Commonwealth battle doctrine," Captain Bright explained. He's treating the ship like a first-person shooter game." Indeed, Marcus had ordered all power diverted from non-essential systems, including life support on unoccupied decks, to weapons and engines. His next commands were even more unorthodox. "Vent atmosphere from decks 3 through 7, he ordered. "Then restore gravity to maximum on those decks only." In the observation gallery, Commander Pax's tendrils twitched with surprise. "He's using the ship itself as a weapon against the boarders." "Unconventional," the overseer noted, "but effective." As the simulation progressed, Marcus faced challenge after challenge, each designed to be increasingly impossible. When the virtual engineering section reported imminent reactor failure, he ordered the reactor ejected toward the largest enemy vessel, creating an improvised bomb. When communication systems failed, he repurposed the ship's long-range sensors to create a makeshift transmission array. By the 6th wave, already farther than most cadets ever reached, Marcus was visibly enjoying himself. He whooped with delight when his impromptu tactics succeeded and laughed out loud when new catastrophes presented themselves. "He acts as though this is entertainment rather than a crisis simulation," the overseer observed. "That's exactly what makes him dangerous," Captain Bright replied quietly. As Marcus entered the unprecedented 8th wave of the simulation, the AI began to adapt more aggressively. The challenges became increasingly bizarre and improbable: quantum anomalies, temporal distortions, and even a simulated first contact scenario with a hostile species in the midst of the ongoing battle. "The AI is attempting to confuse him with scenarios outside military parameters," Lieutenant Voss noted. "It won't work," Captain Bright said with certainty. "Humans thrive on the unexpected." She was right. Each new absurd challenge seemed to delight Marcus further. When the simulation introduced a sudden gravitational anomaly that turned the virtual ship upside down, Marcus actually applauded. "Oh, nice one, computer. Changing the rules mid-game. Very Portal 2 of you," he called out, already adapting his strategy to the new conditions. In the 10th wave, a realm of the simulation never before witnessed by Academy staff, the AI made its final, desperate attempt to defeat the human. The virtual ship began to phase in and out of multiple parallel realities, each with different physical laws and tactical situations. "Wait," Instructor Novax exclaimed, "the simulation is generating new parameters beyond its original programming." "It's learning," Commander Pax said softly. "Adapting. And still failing." Within the simulation, Marcus paused for the first time, surveying the chaos of overlapping realities around him. For a moment, the observers thought he had finally been stumped. Then, to their astonishment, he began to laugh, not a nervous chuckle, but deep, genuine laughter that echoed through the chamber. "Oh man, this is great," he exclaimed. "It's like that time Jake spiked the punch at prom and I tried to dance with 3 different people who were all actually the same person." Instead of fighting against the multiple realities, Marcus began using them against each other, drawing resources from one, applying them to threats in another, creating paradoxes that the simulation couldn't resolve. He wasn't merely surviving anymore, he was playing with reality itself. Finally, after nearly 2 hours, 4 times longer than any previous attempt, the simulation froze, flickered, and shut down. The chamber returned to its neutral state, with Marcus standing in the center, looking momentarily disappointed that his fun had ended. "Simulation complete," the AI announced, its synthesized voice somehow conveying confusion. "Scenario survived. Congratulations, Cadet Vega." The observation gallery erupted in astonished murmurs. Commander Pax stared at the scoreboard in disbelief, all survival metrics at maximum values, with a completion time that would likely stand unbroken for centuries. As Marcus exited the chamber to the stunned silence of his fellow cadets, Commander Pax turned to Captain Bright. "I understand now," he said quietly. "Understand what, Commander?" Pax gestured toward Marcus, who was already enthusiastically describing his experience to Vrax and the others, his hands animating impossible scenarios with obvious joy. Your species. We've always known humans were physically resilient. We classified Earth as a death world because of its harsh conditions. But that's not what makes you dangerous. Captain Bright nodded. No, it isn't. You find joy in chaos, Pax continued, his revelation evident in all three eyes. What terrifies other species, unpredictability, catastrophe, the unknown actually stimulates humans. You don't merely endure chaos, you create it, you play with it. It's why we make good explorers, Captain Bright offered, and terrible enemies. Commander Pax watched as Marcus demonstrated some particularly impossible maneuver to his increasingly attentive alien classmates. The Commonwealth has been preparing for the wrong threat, he said finally. We've been so concerned about human strength, human resilience, human technology, when we should have been worried about human creativity and human laughter. Perhaps it's not a threat at all, Captain Bright suggested. Perhaps it's exactly what the Commonwealth needs. The commander's tendrils rippled thoughtfully. Perhaps, but I suspect the Galactic Combat Academy will never be quite the same again. The grand amphitheater of the Galactic Combat Academy gleamed under the light of Raxis IX's 3 moons. Ceremonial banners representing 100 Commonwealth worlds fluttered in the gentle evening breeze as the graduation ceremony reached its pinnacle. On the elevated platform, Marcus Vega stood alongside his fellow graduates, his academy uniform adorned with so many commendation badges that several alien dignitaries whispered it must be some form of human joke. Beside him, Vrax Sunborn stood proud, his scales shimmering with the formal colors of his house, no longer a rival, but a comrade forged in the crucible of shared experience. Admiral Zephyr, Supreme Commander of Commonwealth Forces, approached the podium. Her gelatinous form rippled with formal pigmentation as she addressed the crowd. It is my distinct honor to announce this cycle's top graduate and recipient of the Stellar Guardian appointment. For the first time in Academy history, with a perfect score in the impossible scenario and unprecedented performance across all combat disciplines, we recognize Cadet Marcus Vega of Earth. The amphitheater erupted in applause, some enthusiastic, some merely polite, but all undeniably respectful. Cadet Vega, Admiral Zephyr continued, the Commonwealth offers you command of our newest prototype vessel, the CSS Intrepid. This appointment comes with the rank of First Commander and authority to select your own crew. Do you accept this honor? All eyes turned to Marcus. Commander Pax, watching from his position among the Academy staff, felt his tendrils twitch with anticipation. The human's appointment had been hotly debated among Commonwealth leadership, with some arguing for a more traditional selection. Pax himself had advocated for Vega, surprising even himself with his vehemence. Marcus stepped forward, his usual grin softening into something more thoughtful. Admiral, I'm deeply honored by this offer. The Academy has taught me more than I ever expected about combat, about the Commonwealth, and about myself. He paused, glancing briefly at Captain Bright, who gave him an almost imperceptible nod. But with respect, I must decline. My skills would be better used on the frontier, where things get weird and unpredictable. I've already accepted a position with the Commonwealth Exploration Corps. They need people who don't freak out when reality stops making sense. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Declining such an appointment was unprecedented. Admiral Zephyr's coloration shifted to a surprised blue before settling into a contemplative purple. An unexpected choice, Cadet, but perhaps a wise one. The frontier certainly presents unique challenges. That's what makes it fun, ma'am, Marcus replied with a wink. Later, as the graduates dispersed to celebration banquets across the Academy grounds, Commander Pax found himself standing alone at the edge of the amphitheater, gazing up at the stars. Quite the ceremony, Captain Bright said, joining him. I hear you've been promoted. Pax nodded. Academy Commandant. Effective next cycle. Congratulations. Any big changes planned? Several, Pax admitted, including a new core subject, human unpredictability, required for all senior cadets. Captain Bright laughed softly. I'm flattered on behalf of my species. It's not flattery, Captain. It's necessity. Pax turned his 3 eyes toward her. The Commonwealth has always classified threats by physical parameters: strength, speed, technological advancement, natural weaponry. We categorized Earth as a death world because of its harsh conditions and assumed that's what made humans dangerous. But you've changed your assessment. Humans aren't feared because you're strong, Pax stated. You're feared and should be respected because you laugh in the face of challenges that would terrify other species. Where others see certain doom, humans see possibilities. Captain Bright considered this. That's why you supported his transfer to the Exploration Corps. Indeed, that and self-preservation. Can you imagine Marcus Vega with command of a warship? Pax's tendrils rippled in what might have been a shudder. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a shuttle, landing on the far pad with the distinctive markings of Earth's diplomatic corps. Ah, Pax sighed, watching as the doors opened to reveal 3 young humans, 2 female, 1 male, all looking around with the eager, wide-eyed expressions he now recognized as the human response to novel experiences. The next cycle's new cadets have arrived early. As the humans bounded down the ramp, already pointing excitedly at the 3 moons overhead and chattering at volumes that made several nearby silence monks cringe in discomfort, and Commander Pax felt his tendrils droop. Here we go again, he muttered. Captain Bright patted his exoskeletal shoulder sympathetically. Look on the bright side, Commander. And what, precisely, would that be? She grinned, a familiar expression that Pax had come to associate with imminent chaos. At least humans keep things interesting. Pax watched as one of the new human arrivals attempted to high-five a very confused Floopian greeter. That, Captain Bright, is exactly what I'm afraid of. But despite his words, Commander Jolt Pax found himself moving forward to greet the newcomers, all 3 of his eyes gleaming with what might almost have been anticipation. After all, if there was one thing humans had taught him, it was that the most terrifying challenges often held the most valuable lessons. And occasionally, if you approached them with the right attitude, they could even be fun.